We had our vaccine a few weeks ago, but the one thing no vaccine can do is conquer death. It can delay my death in the sense that I probably won't die from the thing I'm vaccinated against, but a vaccine cannot conquer death for me completely. The astounding fact we're celebrating this evening is that Jesus has conquered death. Jesus does conquer death, and Easter proves it. Many of you know that Sarah and I had COVID a few weeks ago. We felt fairly grim, but it was the morning that I saw Sarah sitting up in bed, struggling to breathe, that I went cold as the possible implications hit home. Years ago, when I was training, I went out with an experienced vicar, it was Peter Davies, on a funeral visit. And I asked him afterwards, what do you say when they ask you, where is Uncle Henry now? And Peter said to me, no one ever asks that because they fear what you will say. Your non-Christian friend, what do they think will happen to them? Are they fearful? Are they resigned? Are they wrongly confident? This story of two criminals, such a well-known story. And Christian, you know this story well because it's your story too, isn't it? The person on the cross next to Jesus, surrounded by countless people with various views and perspectives. Some were mocking, some were wanting to rid the world of Jesus. Some were there out of curiosity. Some were there for a Friday afternoon's entertainment. And yet this criminal was seeing something in Jesus that others just weren't. The man on the cross next to him, but one, the other criminal, the one man in the world he had most in common with, experiencing the same insane level of pain, the same abuse from the crowd, the same number of hours left, experiencing the same death sentence for his crime, about to face the same God who would also judge him for how he has lived. They were on the same page, but no, they weren't on the same page because this criminal had seen something in Jesus that the other hadn't. The other was in effect saying to Jesus, well, if you're the great I am, get me off this cross, solve my problem, get rid of my pain. But you're not, are you? Why am I wasting my breath on you, Jesus? Because I am in indescribable pain and you are a convenient person for me to lash out at. No one of these criminals saw something in Jesus that most other people were missing. Just Christian, as you did. Verse 40, but the other criminal rebuked him. Don't you fear God, he said, since you are under the same sentence? We are punished justly, for we're getting what our deeds deserve. But this man has done nothing wrong. This man is different from us, he was saying. In a few hours, when we are called to account not by Pilate, but by God, he will be declared innocent, unlike us. We're not the people we ought to be, unlike him. Christian, this is your story, isn't it? You've seen Jesus is different from you. You've seen something of the unacceptability of your own life, and you've seen that one day you will be judged. That amazingly simple but profound prayer in verse 42, maybe you've never used these exact words, but Christian, from the depths of your being, you've cried out this sentiment, Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Jesus, note the intimacy there. Your kingdom, I can see that you are the king. I can see that you are the eternal king, that although you will die, you will somehow become alive again. Jesus, remember me for good when you come into your kingdom. Jesus, you're not only the king, you're the one who can save me. Will you save me? Because of all the good things I've done in my life? Well, the criminal could hardly say that. By his own confession, his crimes were so serious, he absolutely deserved what he was getting. You're the eternal king. You can save me. Will you save me? Because, well, the criminal had no because. Jesus' response, today, you'll be with me in paradise. Today. You won't go into some sort of sleep for a few thousand years. No, today. Today, you will be with me in paradise. You won't have to first work off some of your sins somewhere else. No, today, you will be with me in paradise. We've maybe had some time to consider that word paradise. Maybe we know that it's a Persian word for garden. Maybe our minds have already gone back to the Garden of Eden, the Garden of Paradise. Maybe we've been making connections with the Apostle Paul speaking of paradise, Jesus speaking to John in the book of Revelation of paradise. Well, this criminal probably grasped little of this, but here's the key thing he would have grasped. Today you will be with me in paradise. Today you're going through death and I am literally right next to you, beside you all the way. And on the other side, I'm going to be there. I'm going to be the very first person you see when you open your eyes, and for eternity, you will be with me in paradise. Yes, this is the story of one man 2,000 years ago, but it's the story of countless believers down the centuries, and most of us are saying, yeah, this is my story. I saw something different in Jesus. I saw him to be so different from anyone else. I saw him to be so different from me, so much more wonderful than me. I saw him to be the king, the eternal king, who could even take me through death, even rescue me from God's just judgment of me. And so I cried to him, be my king, be my rescuer. And now I'm as sure as I can be, the day I die is the day I will be with him in paradise. I say it's your story, but maybe for some of you, it isn't quite your story yet. You're interested in Jesus. Church is important to you, but you aren't captivated by him. You wouldn't go quite as far as to say that you desperately need him. Why is that? What are some of your doubts? Why don't you talk to someone? Why don't you come and sit in my garden and talk to me? Because too much is at stake here, isn't it? This could be your story. But here's an additional thought. Yes, this is my story, but how I long for it to be my son's story, my mum's story, my friend at work, at school, at the hairdresser's story. How did this become my story? Well, because I heard this or a similar story from someone else. A good question. Why did the writer Luke record this story? Well, the answer is clear, isn't it? So that it could become your story. But also so that you could use it to tell the story to others so that it becomes their story. So how would it look this week, over the coming weeks, if one of your friends was overwhelmed with pain and suffering and you said, can I tell you a story? It's a real story of two criminals who are suffering. And you know this story so well, it'll trip off your tongue, of this criminal who spotted something different in Jesus. And you could then add, and you know, this is my story too. Or over the coming weeks, when inevitably you get talking with someone about COVID and how it has made us so fearful, doesn't that provide you with the opportunity of saying, can I tell you a story? It's a real story of someone who was facing death, who became certain that the second he died would be the second he would enter paradise. And you could then add, and you know, this is my story too. The criminal on the cross next to Jesus, Luke recorded this story so that you could hear this story and it become your story. But Luke also recorded it for you to use it. It's such a simple and easy to tell story. Luke recorded it for you to use it, to help others come to hear it and it become their story. Are you open to the possibility of telling this story over the coming days? Or would you like the opportunity to tell the story? well, why don't you pray hard for an opportunity to tell this story? Here's a thought. Why don't you get a piece of paper and write on that paper one line, today you will be with me in paradise, and stick it by your bathroom mirror, or by your front door, or by your computer, or on your car dashboard, as a daily reminder that you have a story to tell. Today, you will be with me in paradise. The criminal story, your story. And don't you long for it to be your friend's story?